Chapter 6504. Although Bailey Hongzhuang did not know if anyone could cure the poison, at least this poison had never appeared before. Therefore, even if the other party's medical skills were extraordinary, it would take a long time to cure the poison. Therefore, the situation was obvious. Just as everyone was talking, there was a sudden knock on the door. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching heard the knock, they could not help but look at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. Logically speaking, when she had stayed for 3 days, Guan Hongtian and the others should have stubbornly refused to turn back. It was impossible for them to come looking for them so soon. Could it be that something went wrong? Could it be that the other doctors caused the poison to act up? Xiao He looked confused. They had just arrived, so other than Guan Hongtian and the others, no one should have come to look for them. Could it be that something happened to the others? Xiao Bai said worriedly. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching heard this, their faces darkened slightly. Comparing the two situations, the second situation was more likely to happen. However, today was only their second day in Xi'an City. It was strange that they had gotten into trouble so quickly. If the others were the same, it would be a group of people. When Bewitching opened the door, he heard an unfamiliar voice. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the unfamiliar fat man in front of her. Not only did the suspicion in her heart not disappear, but it also increased. However, as long as no one else was in trouble, they could be at ease. "Who are you?" Bewitching asked in a deep voice. Now that they were the center of everyone's discussion, it was very unlikely that the other party had come to look for the wrong people. The fat man's face was full of smiles. His originally round face became even more joyful, and his eyes were narrowed into slits. "Sorry to disturb you, but can I come in and talk?" When Bailey Hongzhuang heard this, they looked at the man with a suspicious look on their faces. They did not intend to let him in. In the realm of chaos, no one knew when a peerless powerhouse would appear. Although they still had some confidence in their own strength in Xi'an City, it didn't mean that they could be completely unscrupulous. Who knew what the other party was planning to do by coming over at such a sensitive time? The fatty clearly understood that the two of them didn't trust him at all. He couldn't help but say, "Look at my face. Does it look like I have any killing power?" Smiling tiger. Bewitching coldly spat out these 3 words. Fatty's face stiffened, and he said awkwardly, "Alright, I know you guys don't believe me, but I really don't have any bad intentions. To tell you the truth, Guan Hongtian and I are sworn enemies. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why don't we work together?" However, no matter how much Fatty said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching remained unmoved. What I said is true. If you don't believe me, you can ask anyone in Xi'an City. The conflict between me and Guan Hongtian has existed for a long time. Many people know about it. I'm really not lying to you. Just believe me. Then how do you want me to prove it? Facing the 2 icy faces in front of him, Fatty felt a chill run down his spine, as if a cold wind was blowing past him. What a sin! Chapter 6505. So, Bewitching looked indifferently at the anxious man in front of him. After the other party had said so much, he believed that what the other party said was not false, because that sincere and anxious look was not an act. Moreover, just like what he said, as long as they casually asked around, they would be able to find out the truth. If it was a lie, it would be easily exposed. But what did this have to do with them? Fatty was trying his best to explain, trying to convince Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang that everything he said was true. Suddenly hearing Bewitching's words, he was momentarily stunned. So, looking at Fatty's confused look, Bewitching asked again, "What does everything you said have to do with us?" "That's why we have a chance to completely destroy Guan Hongtian, if we work together." Fatty's face was serious. "They bullied you so much, how can you just take it lying down? Even if they really come to apologize 3 days later, that's absolutely not allowed. Don't you think so?" Bailey Hongzhuang kept looking at the fat man in front of her. Looking at his righteous indignation, she slowly asked, "Why not?" Offending Wanbao Pavilion was not a wise move for them at the moment. Although Guan Hongtian was only a shopkeeper in Xi'an City, the Wanbao Pavilion would definitely not care about his life or death. However, If he died, it would mean that they were looking down on Wanbao Pavilion's strength. Because of this, Wanbao Pavilion would definitely not sit idly by. Yesterday's incident was indeed an accident. She did not intend to really offend such a huge figure. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Fatty was once again stunned. He stared blankly at her for a long while before he understood what she meant. For a moment, he was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Jumping 3 feet high, he said agitatedly, "How can that be? They bullied you so much. If we let them get away with it, wouldn't it be a waste? They were the ones who suffered losses yesterday." Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged nonchalantly. She didn't know why, but looking at this fatty's anxious appearance, it was indeed quite funny. That may be the case, but once you give them the antidote, they will definitely kill you. If you don't give them the antidote, they will kill you. If you want to change this outcome, the method is right in front of you. As long as you cooperate with me, you don't have to go through so much trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her arms in front of her chest and leaned against the door with a faint smile on her face. "I can poison it again." Fatty didn't know what to say. Why was the situation in front of him completely different from what he had imagined? Why were these two fellows speaking so casually, as if what they were talking about had nothing to do with them? Under his provocation, shouldn't they be as indignant as he was? Most importantly, the answers of these two people were more speechless than the other. How was he supposed to continue speaking? "Are you done?" Bewitching asked as he looked at the fatty who was at his wit's end. Just as Fatty was thinking about what to say, he suddenly found the door in front of him closed. Bang! Crisp and efficient, without the slightest bit of mercy. Hey, I'm not done yet. Listen to me first." Chapter 6506. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching returned to the house, but their gazes were still fixed on the courtyard's wall. Bang! The fatty flipped over the wall and entered the courtyard. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he noticed 2 pairs of eyes staring straight at him. Hee. The fatty laughed awkwardly and scratched his head. "Can the 2 of you listen to what I have to say? Actually, I'm very sincere." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. She could feel his sincerity, but it was meaningless to them. "After talking for so long, what do you want?" "I want to open a shop." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. "If you want to open one, then open one. To tell you the truth, Guan Hongtian and I have long had a grudge. Back then, I should have been the shopkeeper of this Wanbao Pavilion. But that despicable Guan Hongtian spent a lot of money to bribe others. I always thought that this matter was set in stone. But who would have thought that something like this would happen in the end? After it happened, I was very dissatisfied and wanted to settle the score with Guan Hongtian. But that guy was a typical example of a dead pig not being afraid of boiling water. Not only did he not admit his mistake, he was very arrogant. I couldn't take this lying down. Over the years, I've thought of some ways to change this, but in the end, it didn't work." When the fatty spoke of this, his expression became even more serious than before, as if he had thought of something very sad. His originally happy face had unknowingly become lonely and desolate. His hands gradually clenched, his knuckles turning white. Vaguely, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching felt that there might be something more to this, but the fatty's words stopped here. Wanbao Pavilion is a big business. A shopkeeper in Cloud City is already a very important position in our eyes, but to Wanbao Pavilion, even if there is a mistake, they will let it continue. No matter how unwilling I am, I understand that there is nothing I can do. The fatty's gaze gradually became firm. His eyes were clearly a pair of squinting eyes, but at this moment, they bloomed with infinite vigor. "So if I want to open a shop, at least in Cloud City, I have to defeat Wanbao Pavilion. Otherwise, I will not be able to breathe freely." Looking at the man's ambition, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly moved. She had to admit that this idea sounded very good. But Wanbao Pavilion was a big business, and many of its products came from the immortal realm. It was too difficult for him to defeat Wanbao Pavilion. In fact, as long as you are strong enough, you can defeat Guan Hongtian. That should be easier than defeating Wanbao Pavilion, right? That won't do. The fatty, he shook his head. Where he's from. Where I lost. If I win it back using other means, what's the point? Actually, what I like the most is doing business. Back when I was in the lower plains, I had always taken the route of doing business. Really? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Usually, you spend your energy on business. How did you cultivate step by step to come to the immortal realm? This is also something I didn't expect. I have been aiming to do business since I was young. When I was 5 years old, I showed a business mind. Then it got out of hand. Chapter 6507. Actually, I don't have many hobbies. My biggest hobby is doing business. I think it's the most interesting thing. However, as my business gets better and better, the food I eat also gets better and better. In the past, I used to be a handsome man. Gradually, I became like this. It's not difficult for me to get some heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Gradually, my cultivation base also became stronger and stronger. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiaohei Xiaobai, and even Di Beichen had a hint of emotion on their faces. As expected, there were all kinds of strange things in this world. Even the methods of ascension were different. Compared to their hard work in cultivation, the fatty's method of ascension was too easy. However, they did not doubt the authenticity of his words. For most cultivators, money was not the most important thing in the end. However, if a person's wealth was unimaginable, he could improve his strength quickly by relying on heavenly materials and earthly treasures. After all, a person who cultivated diligently without any cultivation resources could not compare to someone who ate pills like candy. Ever since I came to the realm of chaotic immortals, I felt that I could start all over again. In the past, I had already made it to this level. There was nothing I wanted to do. The situation in the realm of chaotic immortals is quite different from the lower realms. I could definitely achieve great things here. Therefore, I went to fight for the position of shopkeeper in the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. However, who would have thought that something like that would happen and ruin my plan? Everything became meaningless now. The fatty sighed. The dejected look on his face was not an act. This really made him depressed. So, what does this have to do with us? Di Beichen asked slowly. Now they understood the fatty's dream. However, the fatty wanted to open a shop. What did it have to do with them? It has to do with us. Of course it has to do with us. Seeing that Di Beichen seemed to be moved by his words, the fatty's voice became a little more excited. He quickly walked to Di Beichen's side and said with a smile, I've heard about what happened yesterday. I heard that you have a lot of medicinal pills and immortal talismans on you. To tell you the truth, I've already opened a shop right across from the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion, so I clearly saw the situation at that time. Although I wholeheartedly want to defeat him, I have to admit that the things in the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion are not something I can compare to. Usually, the things sold in my shop are consigned by some cultivators, and the level of these things is not high, so they can't compete with the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. But, if you cooperate with me, then everything might be different. The fatty's eyes shone brightly. If I'm not wrong, you should be an immortal talisman master and an immortal apothecary, right? He had been in business for so many years, and he was already very experienced. He still had a good eye for things. Seeing that the fatty had already guessed this point, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other person did not deny it. You've said so much, and we already understand. However, although we are now in Shiyun City, we don't know when we will leave. Maybe we will leave in 2 days. Chapter 6508. Don't. You two are the most suitable candidates. How could Fatty give up? He had been searching for a long time, but had not found a suitable partner. Now that he had found these two, if he let them leave, it would be difficult to find them again in the future. There's no need to say more. We are indeed not interested in this. Di Beichen's voice was cold. They had never been interested in doing business. Just as Hong Zhuang had said, although they were temporarily staying in Shiyun City, no one knew how long they would stay. Based on their past experiences, they would usually leave after a short period of time. Despite Fatty's constant struggle, Di Beichen still refused to let him in. Hearing the wailing outside the door, Xiaohei could not help but tremble. She had goosebumps. This guy is really persistent. But after being rejected like this, he probably won't come again, right? Not to mention Master. Just watching from the side was unbearable. This guy was simply, I don't think so. Master rejected it so decisively. Little White replied. However, the situation was completely different from what they had expected. The next day, Fatty appeared again with the same flattering smile on his face. He first knocked on the door. When he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He had no intention of opening the door for him, he climbed over the wall and entered. Both of you, I am very sincere. If you don't believe me, you can see that I have already formulated an excellent plan. As long as you are willing, we can achieve this goal very quickly. I promise that as long as you give me the immortal pills and immortal talismans, I will definitely help you earn enough blood spirit stones. As for the money earned, how about we split it 50-50? How about 30-70? 20-80? This ratio is really too high. After all, I have to put in a lot of effort to run the shop. Alright. If it really doesn't work, you can split it 90%, and I'll split it 10%. How about that? I say, you can't go overboard. You can't expect me to work for free, right? You should leave. Bang! The door to the courtyard closed, and the courtyard became quiet. Who said that one woman is equal to 3 ducks? I think Fatty alone is worth 100 ducks. Bailey Hongzhuang had a helpless look on her face. She felt that ever since Fatty appeared, she had never been able to enjoy the tranquil fruit. For the first time, she felt that silence was so wonderful. On the third day, Fatty appeared on time once again. With the lesson from the day before, he no longer knocked on the door. Instead, he directly climbed over the wall and entered the courtyard. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, a pure smile appeared on his face. However, the two of them were very clear that this guy was absolutely not pure and kind at all. Tell me, isn't this considered 3 visits to the thatched cottage? It's time for you to promise me. Cultivation resources are very important in the realm of chaotic immortal. Only when you have enough cultivation resources can you enter the realm of chaotic immortal. With me helping you take care of these things, everything will be much more convenient. I'm not boasting, but I'm still very strong. Fatty, can you go out by yourself today? Chapter 6509. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Yin Ruoyan were listening to Fatty's sales pitch, Guan Hongtian and the others were feeling extremely heavy. Today was the 3rd day. They had spent so much time and invited so many immortal pharmacists, but the result was still the same. They were helpless. Even though everyone had tried their best to research and develop several antidotes, they were still unable to detoxify the poison. What a bunch of trash! Guan Hongtian couldn't help but curse. In these 3 days, his mood had been getting heavier and heavier. He couldn't believe that with so many people working together, they couldn't even detoxify a little girl's poison. If word got out, it would be a joke. In fact, they had already become a laughingstock. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman looked at the poison in their hands and recalled the immortal pharmacist's warning. Once the poison spread to their arms, they wouldn't be able to keep their lives. There was only a short time left, but according to the immortal pharmacist's performance, the possibility of detoxifying the poison was close to 0. Uncle Guan, what do we do now? Yun Xiaoman's face was pale. If we can't satisfy that woman, won't Brother Yi and I have to die? Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. Guan Hongtian's face was solemn. What happened this time made him feel deeply ashamed. However, he was now a fish on the chopping block. Since he couldn't detoxify the poison, he could only think of a way to get the antidote. Uncle, what do you plan to do? Guan Yi looked at Guan Hongtian worriedly. No matter if it's that man or woman, they don't seem to be easy to deal with. After what happened last time, they are very jealous of us. This time they might ask for an exorbitant price. Noticing Guan Yi's worried expression, Guan Hongtian's heart warmed. He patted him on the shoulder and said in an affirmative tone, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Hearing this, Guan Yi's heart also warmed. How could he not understand? Things had already come to this point. If his uncle wanted to show his sincerity, he would have to take out a lot of precious things. Only then would Bailey Hongzhuang give them the antidote. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have invited these immortal medicine masters over. wasting resources for nothing. Guan Hongtian sighed. He had spent a lot of money just to invite these immortal pharmacists. Yet, none of the problems were solved. Yun Xiaoman's face is also gloomy. The medical skills of these immortal medicine masters are really too poor. They can't even detoxify a little girl's poison. Really unlucky. Guan Hongtian faintly glanced at Yun Xiaoman, his heart also somewhat complaining. If it wasn't for Yun Xiaoman, such a thing wouldn't have happened this time. An immortal pill furnace was definitely not something that Ear needed. Now that things had come to this point, she was still criticizing others. Seriously, as if noticing Guan Hongtian's gaze, Yun Xiaoman's face also showed a trace of unnaturalness. She then lowered her head and pretended to be well-behaved and said, "Uncle Guan, I've troubled you." It didn't take long for Guan Hongtian to finish preparing everything. Then he led Guan Yi and the other two to Bailey Hongzhuang's residence. Chapter 65:10. Inside the house, Fatty was still eloquent. In order to increase his persuasiveness, he even brought up some examples of his past business experiences. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Ninji felt that this fellow was too long-winded, they had to admit that his business acumen was indeed impressive. However, this also proved that the fatty was a shrewd fellow. All businessmen were unscrupulous. It was easy to imagine that he was able to achieve such great success in the business world. Suddenly, a series of footsteps were heard outside the door. Then there was a knock on the door. Hearing this, the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. It seems that the person we've been waiting for is here. Di Beichen looked at the sky. Indeed, these fellows would not believe it until the very last moment. Fatty originally had some doubts, but he quickly reacted to the identity of the person who had just arrived. He immediately rushed in front of Di Beichen and ran into the courtyard like a dog's leg. "Boss, just leave the small matter of opening the door to me. I'll do it. Fatty's face was full of smiles. The way he followed Di Beichen wholeheartedly showed that he already regarded Di Beichen as his own boss. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Fatty was indeed a first-class businessman. His personality was incomparable to others. As the fatty approached the courtyard gate, his expression turned gloomy. Guan Hongtian. After waiting for so long, they finally saw this fellow suffer. Creak. The courtyard door slowly opened. Guan Hongtian and the other two had smiles on their faces when they heard the footsteps. Since they were here to ask for medicine, they naturally had to welcome them with smiles. However, as soon as the door was open, Guan Hongtian saw a face he did not expect. "Gong Jun, what are you doing here?" Guan Hongtian's face immediately turned cold. For a moment, he even suspected that he had come to the wrong place. Almost everyone knew about the dispute between him and Gong Jun. What he did at that time was indeed disgraceful, but as the saying goes, all is fair in war. He didn't think there was anything wrong with it. However, this Gong Jun just couldn't be serious about this matter. Originally, he thought that it would be fine after a while. Who would have thought that this guy was so stubborn in this aspect? Not only did he make this matter known to everyone, he even opened another shop opposite the Wanbao Pavilion. Fortunately, this guy's foundation couldn't be compared to the Wanbao Pavilion, but this guy still slapped him in the face. For a moment, the eyes of the enemies blazed with hatred when they met. Guan Yi was also a little surprised. Although he hadn't been in Xi'an City for long, the person in front of him was no stranger at all. "Why can't I be here?" Gong Jun's face was filled with pride as he looked at Guan Hongtian with disdain. "You dare to offend my boss? You're really an idiot. Who's your boss?" Guan Hongtian frowned. Gong Jun's inexplicable appearance here was already very strange, and now he said something like this. Usually, he was very concerned about this sworn enemy of his, but he had never heard of this guy acknowledging someone as his boss. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen slowly walked over. Gong Jun immediately walked to Di Beichen's side and said, "This is my boss." Di Beichen turned to look at Gong Jun, only to see that this guy's face was filled with pride, without the slightest bit of guilt. That look, it was as if he had really accepted him as a little brother. Chapter 65:11. However, in the blink of an eye, Gong Jun had become Di Beichen's follower. Wasn't this too fast? Most importantly, even though Bewitching did not say anything, he could tell from the look in his eyes that the two of them were quite familiar with each other. Guan Hongtian's heart sank. It was already troublesome to come here today to ask for the antidote. Now that Gong Jun was here, things would become even more troublesome. You're here today to ask for the antidote from my sister-in-law, right? The fat man looked at Guan Hongtian with his sharp eyes. It was as if he had seen through everything. Guan Hongtian's expression was a little awkward. He had never taken Gong Jun seriously. Now that he was being manipulated by him, it was a terrible feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Gong Jun quietly. She was thinking about this guy. His name is Gong Jun? With his appearance, he doesn't seem to be related to this name at all. That's right. Guan Hongtian suppressed the gloominess in his heart. After all, they were here to ask for help today. Miss, we came here today with sincerity. We hope that you can give us the antidote. Guan Hongtian's face was full of smiles. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile and handed a Qinquan bag to her. It was impossible to associate him with the arrogant look he had earlier. Bailey Hongzhuang took the Qinquan bag and glanced at it. It was indeed very rich. This guy must have known that she would not give in easily, so he brought a lot of things with him. However, she did not know enough about the situation in the realm of chaotic immortals. She did not know if Guan Hongtian would feel the pinch for these things. He couldn't help but look at Gong Jun. Among them, Gong Jun was probably the one who knew Guan Hongtian the best. With that thought in mind, Bailey Hongzhuang handed the Qinquan bag to Gong Jun and said, "Take a look." Gong Jun didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would hand over the Qinquan bag to him. His eyes lit up, and he eagerly took it. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. Leave this matter to me." Gong Jun naturally understood that today was an opportunity to show his loyalty. If his performance could satisfy the other party, there might be a chance for cooperation. Guan Hongtian's face turned ashen when he saw this scene. He was originally very confident in his preparations. After all, these cultivation resources were already extremely abundant for the cultivators of Xi'an City. However, he never thought that Gong Jun would be here. He knew this guy too well. If it wasn't for the fact that Gong Jun couldn't compare with the things in the Wanbao Pavilion, he might have really been defeated by this guy. Most importantly, with this guy's profiteering nature, he definitely wouldn't give up easily. After Gong Jun saw the contents of the Qinquan bag, his expression became unfathomable. "Shopkeeper Guan, this is 2 lives. Don't you think it's a little insincere for you to only bring these things here?" Guan Hongtian's face turned cold. "What's wrong with me? These things are already a lot. Take them out and ask other people. Isn't it enough?" "Haha." Gong Jun smiled faintly. His narrowed eyes flashed with shrewdness. "These things are indeed a lot for other people. But who are you? You're the shopkeeper of the Wanbao Pavilion. With your wealth, these things are just a drop in the ocean." Chapter 65:12. Hearing Gong Jun's words, Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman couldn't help but look at him. Although they knew that Gong Jun and Guan Hongtian had a grudge against each other. But from what he said, it seemed that their uncle didn't bring many things. These things were prepared by their uncle alone, and he knew that these things were related to their lives. Under such circumstances, if their uncle still did this, what was the meaning of this? Guan Hongtian also felt Guan Yi's gaze, and his face immediately flushed red. He roared, "Gong Jun, don't bully me. These things are enough to show my sincerity. Aren't you deliberately targeting me because of our daily grudges?" As he spoke, Guan Hongtian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Miss, these cultivation resources are enough to last you for a long time. Don't listen to this villain's slanderous words." However, Bailey Hongzhuang ignored him and only gave Gong Jun a look. Guan Hongtian's family must be very rich, and he might even have some very precious treasures. If these things could be taken out, it would be no doubt for the best. Gong Jun immediately became more confident. "Shopkeeper Guan, don't say these useless things. Anyway, you don't have enough things, so I can't give you the antidote." "Then what do you want?" Guan Hongtian saw this and understood that with Gong Jun here, this matter would not be easily resolved. "I heard that you have a 10,000-year-old purple blood vine." Gong Jun's face was filled with a complacent smile, and his narrow eyes shone brightly. As soon as these words came out, Guan Hongtian's pupils shrank, and his face instantly turned ashen. He never thought that Gong Jun would covet his 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. He had spent a tremendous amount of effort to obtain this treasure. Just this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine was already more precious than all of the cultivation resources here. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also brightened. She never thought that Guan Hongtian would have such a treasure. This 10,000-year purple blood vine could help Radiant Sun Realm cultivators increase their chances of breaking through to the elementary immortal realm. Because it was simply too difficult to break through to the elementary immortal stage, anything that could be of some use was extremely precious. Normally, a 1,000-year-old purple blood vine was already extremely valuable, so the value of this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine was obvious. Gong Jun's expression also changed. He naturally knew about this matter, but if he were to hand over the purple blood vine because of the poison, then they would really suffer a great loss this time. No, absolutely not. Guan Hongtian objected without hesitation. Although he usually lived a leisurely life, it was because no matter how hard he cultivated, he could not touch the barrier of breaking through the elementary celestial stage. He had no choice but to pay a huge price to obtain the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. He wanted to take the opportunity to increase his strength. If he had to hand this thing over, he would definitely vomit blood. Gong Jun wasn't surprised by Guan Hongtian's objection. Guan Hongtian, so, you're going to give up the lives of your nephew and this young lady? Gong Jun raised his eyebrows and said casually, "That's true. The other party is only your nephew. Why do you have to sacrifice so much? As a cultivator, the most practical thing is to increase your cultivation." His mocking words were like sharp blades that provoked Guan Hongtian. If he could, he wished that he could slap this despicable guy to death. Chapter 65:13. Since you don't want to, then please see them out. Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang turned around at the same time, clearly not willing to listen to anything else. Seeing Gong Jun about to close the door, Guan Hongtian hurriedly said, "Don't go too far. If we give up, then you won't have any cultivation resources left." "Are you kidding? Does my boss look like someone who lacks these things?" Gong Jun looked at Guan Hongtian with disdain. "Don't look down on people like a dog." The courtyard door gradually closed. Bailey Hongzhuang and Yin Ruoyan didn't have the slightest intention of relenting. Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman's hearts had already sunk. If they missed today, they would really only have a dead end. Just as the door was about to close, Guan Hongtian seemed to have made a shocking decision and said, "Okay, I promise you." After saying that, Guan Hongtian seemed to have aged a few decades in an instant. His whole person became dispirited. The door creaked open, and what came into view was Gong Jun's joyful smile. Just that. Don't mention how dazzling that smile was. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other. They didn't think that Guan Hongtian would go to this extent for Guan Yi. After all, many people don't care about the life and death of others for their own benefit. Not to mention, Guan Yi wasn't even his son. Hee, wouldn't it have been better if Guan Hongtian had agreed earlier? Why bother doing this? Gong Jun said with a smile. Come, please come in." Looking at the man's flattering appearance, Guan Hongtian felt as disgusted as if he had eaten a fly. "Guan Hongtian, such an important thing. I think you should have it with you, right?" Guan Hongtian's face was ashen, but since he had already made a decision, he slowly took out the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. "It's all here. Now can you give us the antidote?" "Of course, we always keep our promises." Gong Jun turned his head to look at Bailey Hongzhuang, only to see her throw a porcelain bottle directly at him. After receiving the bottle, Gong Jun handed it over to Guan Hongtian. Seeing this, Guan Hongtian didn't delay, and immediately gave the antidote to Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman. Until the poison in their hands began to dissipate, he finally let out a sigh of relief. In the next moment, a sinister look appeared in his eyes. "It's not that easy to take my things." Guan Yi stood beside Guan Hongtian. "You've gone too far. Not only poison, but also take the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. Give it back." At the same time there's TSS, SS facing, teat. SATES. S's. S boss, I told you, this guy is definitely not that honest. Gong Jun clicked his tongue. It's been so long, but your temperament hasn't changed at all. It seems that you haven't suffered enough this time. Guan Hongtian was originally full of confidence, but after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's calm expressions, he inexplicably felt a little guilty. Our boss already guessed that you would do this, so. Gong Jun stretched his tone, indicating for Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching to continue. Chapter 65-14. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant words, Guan Hongtian and the other two were petrified. Wasn't this like the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind? They were scheming against each other, and each other was scheming against them. Most importantly, they had already handed over the antidote, so why was it returned to its original position? How could you do this? Guan Hongtian cursed. This was driving him crazy. In the end, it's all because of shopkeeper Guan's character. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes were slightly raised, but there wasn't the slightest bit of warmth in them. Originally, I planned to give you the antidote if shopkeeper Guan left obediently, but now it seems that I was prepared. Guan Hongtian's face was ashen. His eyes fell on Gong Jun. He believed that this had something to do with Gong Jun. Young master, young lady. I only did this out of anger. Why don't you let me go? I promise that something like this will never happen again. Guan Hongtian had no choice but to speak softly. He had already been squeezed dry of everything he could offer. If this happened again, he would be driven crazy. Shopkeeper Guan, don't you think it's ridiculous to say this now? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She also felt that this matter was troublesome. If the other party wasn't the shopkeeper of Wanbao Pavilion, it would be fine to kill him. However, he had such a powerful force behind him. Killing him would be troublesome. At this moment, Gong Jun suddenly came to Di Beichen's side and said with a smile, Boss madam, I have a plan, can it work? Go ahead, Di Beichen said indifferently. Originally, he didn't take Gong Jun seriously. However, after what happened just now, he realized that this guy was quite capable. If he could come up with a good idea, then it would be good. It's like this. As Gong Jun explained his plan, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes lit up. They had to admit that this was a good idea. Guan Hongtian's face darkened. He knew that Gong Jun was up to no good when he saw the look on his face. A moment later, Gong Jun said, Shopkeeper Guan, although you were in the wrong first, my boss is magnanimous and doesn't intend to hold it against you. Hearing this, Guan Hongtian was slightly stunned. He didn't expect such a surprise. If anyone dares to attack my boss and madam, then they will be against you. If anything happens to them, even if you have to give up your position as the shopkeeper, you must kill them. Gong Jun smiled and said, How is it? You don't need to do anything. You just need to say a few words. Isn't it simple? Looking at the other party's expression, Guan Hongtian wanted to vomit blood. Indeed, it was only a few words. After saying this, it was equivalent to completely eliminating the possibility of him attacking. Because if he attacked again, it would be equivalent to slapping his own face. Most importantly, based on the commotion caused by the past few days, even a fool would know that he was being coerced. This was equivalent to openly telling everyone that he had lost. What? You've thought about it for so long. Are you unwilling? I agree. Guan Hongtian gnashed his teeth as he glared at Gong Jun. What he hated the most right now was that he hadn't killed this guy earlier, which had led to this situation. Chapter 65-15. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't have to worry about what happened next. This was because Gong Jun had already taken all the responsibility for this matter. He even patted his chest and promised that he would handle this matter properly. Early the next morning, that round figure had already appeared in the courtyard. After the events of the past few days, they had already gotten used to Gong Jun's daily appearance, and didn't find it strange to see him climbing over the wall. Boss madam, Guan Hongtian has already spread the news, we can rest assured now. Gong Jun smiled. Based on that fellow's character, he won't cause any more trouble this time, but he asked me to ask you when you'll give him the antidote. I didn't poison him at all. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. What? Gong Jun was stunned. If I wanted to poison him, I could have done it right in front of him. Why would I go through so much trouble? Ryu's pretty face was full of carelessness. I planned to poison him yesterday. I didn't expect them to agree without any suspicion. So why waste my poison powder? Gong Jun stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang for a long while. It was precisely because her methods had completely shocked Guan Hongtian that they didn't even let the immortal medicine masters take a look when they returned. Even if they said that he wasn't poisoned, he probably wouldn't believe them. Because the previous poisoning incident had already proved that Bailey Hongzhuang's poison skills were much stronger than those people's. Madam, you're too smart. Gong Jun's face was full of surprise. I thought I was already a profiteer. I didn't expect you to be even more profiteer than me, haha. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched. Profiteer. This shouldn't be a good word, right? Then I'll go tell Guan Hongtian this news. I'll make sure he dies from anger. Seeing Gong Jun run out again, Bailey Hongzhuang looked worried. She turned to look at the man beside her. Beichin, will he be okay if he goes alone? Yesterday, Guan Hongtian had been caught red-handed. Naturally, there was nothing he could do. Now that he knew there was no such evidence, no one knew what he would do in a fit of anger. Don't worry. Since he's been fighting with Guan Hongtian for so long, and is still safe and sound, it proves that he has some tricks up his sleeve. Beichin smiled and placed his hands on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, massaging them. You haven't had a good rest because this guy comes here every day. Do you want to take a rest? The man's hands seemed to have magical powers. His gentle and light touch made her entire body relax. No need. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. I'm not that weak. By the way, Gong Jun, what do you plan to do? Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Beichin's legs and looked at him curiously. Gong Jun had put in a lot of effort this time. If they didn't agree to his request, it would indeed be unreasonable. He's already called me that so smoothly. Smoothly? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She immediately understood that Beichin was referring to Gong Jun calling him boss every day. At first, she thought it was a little strange, but as she listened, she gradually got used to it. Actually, Gong Jun is quite smart. With him handling these matters, we don't have to worry too much. Chapter 65-16. The hall was shrouded in demonic qi. It was a terrifying black, dotted with dazzling gold and red. A woman sat quietly in the hall. Her peerlessly fair face was graceful and luxurious. Under the contrast of her black and red dress, her smooth jade-like legs were faintly revealed, making her look even more seductive and alluring. The woman was as cold as ice and her eyes were filled with an everlasting chill. Have you found any news? First Princess, we have already sent people out to look for him. But you know the situation of that barrier. It's not easy to break it. The man half knelt on the ground with a worried look on his face. That's not what I want to hear. I only want results. The woman waved her long sleeves. Her already cold face became even colder. Could it be, your subordinates are a bunch of trash? I have waited for so many years. If I miss this opportunity, I will bury all of you. The man shuddered and hurriedly said, First Princess, we have been trying to find a way to break this barrier all these years. Now we are getting closer and closer. Thanks to Third Princess's efforts, a small crack has appeared in the barrier. Someone has broken through. Oh, the woman crossed her legs. Her beautiful jade-like legs made one's mouth go dry. However, the man didn't even dare to look at them. He just lowered his head. This terrifying pressure made him feel extremely terrified. Who's the one who broke out? It's. The man's body kept trembling. He wanted to say the result, but was worried that the First Princess would be furious. The woman glanced at the man indifferently. She already understood. Speed up. If anything happens to him, you should know the consequences. Understood. This subordinate understands. Boss, madam, you didn't see Guan Hongtian's expression. It was so wonderful, haha. Gong Jun was happy. He had been suppressed by Guan Hongtian for so long. This time, he finally had a chance to hold his head high. Just thinking about it made him happy. Since the matter has been resolved, why did you come here today? Gong Jun was slightly stunned. He immediately said with a bitter face, Boss, you can't turn your back on me. I've risked my life to do so many things for you. If you kick me away just like that, wouldn't that be too heartless? Risking my life. Isn't that right? Guan Hongtian hated me now. If he knew that the boss was no longer protecting me, he would definitely take the opportunity to kill me. Why is my life so bitter? Gong Jun sat down on the ground. He was obviously acting like a rogue. As long as Di Baichen didn't agree, he wouldn't get up today. Get up. I won't get up if you don't agree. Are you sure you don't want to get up? Di Baichen squinted at Gong Jun. I won't. Before Gong Jun could finish his words, he realized that something was wrong. He immediately got up with a smile on his face. Get up, get up. Boss, since you agreed, I have to get up. Seeing this, Di Baichen's lips curled into a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang even laughed out loud. This guy, his personality was quite good. Boss, why don't I take you to see my shop? Gong Jun's eyes lit up. Don't worry, I'll run it well. I won't embarrass you. Go see it when you have time. I vaguely remember it. Chapter 65-17. Gong Jun was a little disappointed. He'd been prepared to take advantage of this opportunity to make a big splash. Sure enough, this matter wasn't important to his boss at all. But that didn't matter. He just needed to take care of this shop. It would come in handy one day. Gong Jun, I'll leave this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang handed a chinquan pouch to Gong Jun. What's this? Gong Jun took the chinquan pouch in a daze. In fact, he'd been in a daze ever since his boss had agreed to let him follow him. Before coming here today, he'd been worried that he'd be rejected again. After all, this matter had already been dealt with. However, he'd been prepared to pester his boss to the bitter end. Now that he'd been accepted, he was a little confused. This situation was much simpler than he'd thought. Looking at the man's godlike face, Gong Jun couldn't help but sigh inwardly. No matter what, this was good news. Why are you in a daze? Bailey Hongzhuang saw Gong Jun staring at Di Baichen in a daze. She couldn't help but wave her hand in front of his face. Are you in a daze? You're not a girl. How can you be so entranced by Di Baichen? Di Baichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly. She really dared to say anything now. Gong Jun snapped out of his daze and smiled. I just can't believe this is all real. Haha. When he saw the contents of the chinquan pouch, Gong Jun was pleasantly surprised. His face was full of disbelief. These are all for me to sell. Of course, Di Baichen replied. These things aren't very high grade, but they should be enough for ordinary cultivators in Xi'an City. Of course, Gong Jun's face was full of excitement. Normally, people only use first-grade immortal pills and first-grade immortal talismans. There were rank 1, rank 2 and rank 3 here. Guan Hongtian's Wanbao Pavilion only sold these. Although we have less variety compared to them, I am confident that we will be able to defeat them. Boss madam, don't worry, I won't let you down. We believe in you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Previously, when she and Baichen were in the abandoned immortal forest, she had learned alchemy and rune techniques. Therefore, she had kept many Tier 1 and Tier 2 alchemists. Originally, they thought that they wouldn't need it for the time being. Now that Gong Jun's shop happened to need it, they might as well take it out. Boss, aren't you worried that I'll run away with the items? Gong Jun couldn't help but ask. With so many items, their value wasn't low. If you use people, don't doubt them. If you doubt them, don't use them. Di Baichen looked at Gong Jun. If you really run away, then I'll treat it as if I've misjudged you. As soon as Di Baichen finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Gong Jun was standing there without saying anything. She was a little confused. With this guy's personality, it was impossible for him to be silent for so long. When she turned her eyes, she found that Gong Jun's eyes were red as he looked at Di Baichen, and she was immediately dumbfounded. Gong Jun, you don't tell me you're going to cry? Gong Jun blinked and said excitedly, Heavens, I'm so touched. I've been alone since I came to the realm of chaotic immortal. I don't have any friends. Now that I have a boss and he trusts me so much, how can I not be touched? Wow, the heavens really have eyes. Chapter 65-18. After Gong Jun received the immortal pills and immortal talismans, He busied himself with managing the store. In his own words, he would definitely use the store's results to prove his ability and let everyone wait for his results. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were not worried. They believed that Gong Jun had the ability to do so. Moreover, even if the business did not do well, it would not be a big deal. Di Beichen, I've studied this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. Coincidentally, Gong Jun also sent over the other medicinal ingredients that I needed. I plan to refine it into an elixir. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine in her hand. This thing's effects should be very good, which was why Guan Hongtian treasured it so much. However, although this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine's medicinal effects are very good, if too many elixirs are refined, the effects will be greatly reduced. I've thought about it, and in order to maximize the effects of this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine, I can only refine 3 elixirs at most. Maintaining the medicinal effects is the most important. Di Beichen nodded. If they ignored the medicinal effects for the sake of quantity, it would be a waste of this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down on Di Beichen's lap and wrapped her arms around the man's slender neck with a slight smile on her lips. The man who was originally abstinent suddenly became charming and gentle. He reached out and clasped the woman's head and kissed her. The woman's small face flushed red. I'm talking business with you. Are you sure you're using this posture to talk business with me? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, teasing her with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little guilty. It seemed that she had sat on his lap first. It's broad daylight and the world is clear. I only sat down because there were no chairs nearby. With that, she prepared to stand up. She could not possibly say that she had seduced him, right? Before she could stand up, Di Beichen's big hand pulled her back again. All right, I won't tease you anymore. It's because my wife is too delicious that it's easy for your husband to misunderstand. How about that? Seeing the man speak so seriously, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that something was wrong. Was it really okay for this guy to ask this question so seriously? I'm thinking that Gong Jun played a huge role in obtaining this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. After I refine the pills, I will give one of them to him. What do you think? She wasn't a greedy person. Originally, they didn't even know that Guan Hongtian had a 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. If it weren't for Gong Jun's help, they naturally wouldn't have been able to obtain it. It's fine as long as my wife makes the decision. Di Beichen smiled faintly. After so many years, Hongzhuang's temperament had not changed at all. However, this was what made Hongzhuang so cute. Then I'll go refine the pills. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly stood up and ran into the room like a wisp of smoke. Ever since he didn't train with others, Beichen's state had changed. After Gong Jun put the pills and talismans up for sale in the shop, the number of customers in the shop didn't increase. Shopkeeper, we didn't have anything to sell before. Since we have something now, should we advertise it? The attendant's eyes sparkled with excitement. His shopkeeper had always been good and had spent a lot of effort to defeat the Wanbao Pavilion. It was just that they had too few things in their shop. This was what made them feel the most helpless. Chapter 65-19. No need. Gong Jun smiled faintly and waved his hand. Although we don't have as many customers as the Wanbao Pavilion, we still have a lot of customers. If we deliberately publicize or organize activities, the Wanbao Pavilion will definitely fight us to the death with their hatred for us. Currently, we can't compete with them in terms of financial resources. This method is not beneficial to us. Hearing Gong Jun's words, the attendant suddenly understood. Originally, he was worried that the shopkeeper would not think of a way. Now he understood that the shopkeeper had already thought through all of this. So find a few people and spread the news. Say that our shop has a new batch of high-quality goods at a reasonable price. Gong Jun chuckled. He knew very well how quickly this kind of rumor spread. It wouldn't take long for everyone to know. Be smart when you do this. Don't let others find out. The attendant stared blankly at Gong Jun. At this moment, he finally understood the shopkeeper's plan. Come to think of it, this should be the most cost-effective method, right? For a moment, He even wondered if the shopkeeper had said so much before, because he could not bear to spend money. After successfully refining the pills, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Gong Jun had not come for a few days. She was a little surprised. With this guy's personality, it was not his usual style for him to endure for so long without appearing. Bewitching, should we go to Gong Jun's shop to take a look? No matter what, they were still business partners. It was indeed very unprofessional of him not to visit for so many days. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's curious little eyes, Bewitching smiled faintly. Okay. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also came over immediately. It was rare for them to go out, so they definitely would not miss it. As the two of them arrived at Gong Jun's shop, the scene in front of them was beyond their expectations. The business of the Pavilion of 1,000 Treasures was dull, and there was barely a single customer. On the other hand, Gong Jun's Pavilion of Immortal Treasures was crowded with people coming and going. It was obvious that business was booming. Am I seeing things? Xiao He was dumbfounded. According to the situation of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the situation should be reversed. However, when it rubbed its eyes, the scene in front of it remained the same. The last time we came, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion didn't have much strength. How did it change so much in just a few days? Xiao Bai was also in disbelief. Wasn't this change too fast? I got it. Xiao He's eyes lit up. It must be because the products made by the two masters are too good. That's why there are so many customers. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other. Both of them were surprised. It seems that we've underestimated Gong Jun's business acumen, Bewitching said in a low voice. The products that they brought out were indeed good, but the Pavilion of 1,000 Treasures definitely had many good treasures as well. In such a short time, Gong Jun was able to bring the entire shop back to life. After all, he was capable. I didn't expect that the little brother who suddenly came to find me would be so capable. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. For them this was a good thing. Dear guests, please come in. An attendant smiled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He, and welcomed them in. Chapter 65-20. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the waiter's polite attitude and nodded in her heart. In terms of attitude, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was indeed much better than the Wanbao Pavilion. Not only that, she noticed that the layout inside was also simple and clear. The lighting was very bright, and the shelves looked expensive, but there were no extra decorations. Because of this, the entire Immortal Treasure Pavilion seemed more spacious. There were so many people gathered here, but it didn't seem crowded at all. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching didn't look like they were here to buy anything, and even looked around and commented from time to time, the waiter didn't have any dissatisfaction. He just asked the two of them to look around, and then went to greet the other customers. His attitude didn't make anyone unhappy at all. The Wanbao Pavilion really chose the wrong shopkeeper. If he had chosen Gong Jun, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion would definitely be much better now. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. She began to believe that what Gong Jun said earlier was true. This guy. Perhaps he really did use his wealth to increase his cultivation level. Just as the two of them were talking, a voice full of surprise suddenly sounded. Boss, you're here. Gong Jun's round figure was as agile as a fish in this crowded shop. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of the two of them. At this moment, his face full of meat was filled with an excited smile. If one looked closely, it was inexplicably cute. Boss, madam, are you satisfied with the shop's situation? I originally planned to invite you to take a look in a few days, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come. I knew that you must be thinking about me in your hearts. I'm really touched. Noticing that Gong Jun's eyes were slightly red because he was touched, Bewitching couldn't help but say, Stop. Gong Jun's expression immediately froze, and he forcibly suppressed it under Bewitching's gaze. Bewitching rubbed his eyebrows helplessly. This little brother that appeared out of nowhere was not only good at pestering people, but also had a big problem. He was too emotional. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. Gong Jun was really too interesting. On the path of cultivation, she had seen all kinds of cold, arrogant, and despotic cultivators, but a person as emotional as Gong Jun was really rare. This guy's emotions came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to normal and pulled the two of them to the side. Boss, madam, you don't know how good our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's business has been these past 2 days. Guan Hongtian was almost angered to death by me. However, no matter how angry he is, it's useless. After all, his things aren't as good as ours. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. You mean that the things sold in the store are actually better than those sold in the Wanbao Pavilion? They were all immortal elixirs, so logically speaking, there shouldn't be any difference. Most importantly, when she came in, she had already taken note of the prices of some elixirs. If she remembered correctly, there wasn't much difference between the prices of these elixirs and those sold in the Wanbao Pavilion. Under such circumstances, it was really surprising that they could still hold the advantage. Chapter 65-21. When the news first came out, many people thought that I was the one who hired them. Although it wasn't good news, some people didn't believe it, so they came to the store to buy elixirs. At first, I didn't take it to heart, and even thought that it might be a trap set up by Guan Hongtian to make everyone hate the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. I even thought of a countermeasure, but I didn't expect that it wasn't Guan Hongtian's doing at all. Gradually, many people said that our Immortal Spirit Pills were better than the Immortal Spirit Pills of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. As more and more people said this, the rumors spread and became more and more real. For this reason, I did some research and found that the Immortal Spirit Pills of the Madam were indeed better. Gong Jun's eyes shone with excitement and worship. Madam, your alchemy skills are really amazing. The same medicinal ingredients can have such an effect in your hands. It's really amazing. Not only that, after everyone found out that the Immortal Spirit Pills were better, some people turned their attention to the Immortal Talismans, wanting to know if there was anything special about them. Who would have thought that they guessed right? The Immortal Talismans were better than the ordinary ones. As a result, our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's business became better and better, haha. Gong Jun's eyes narrowed into slits in ecstasy. Boss, you're really amazing. How did you do it? I've been in Xi'an City for so long, but I've never encountered such a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Gong Jun's words and was secretly puzzled. She thought that Gong Jun might be taking the opportunity to flatter them, but she vaguely heard some customers saying the same thing. It was because the price was slightly lower than the Thousand Treasures Pavilions, and the medicinal effects were better, that it attracted so many cultivators. Is that true? Bewitching asked slowly. Yes. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. I'm telling the truth. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching felt even more emotional. Since they came to the Immortal Realm, they had been learning from their master, and had never seen other people's Immortal Spirit Pills and Immortal Talismans, so they were completely unaware of such a thing. Since this matter was true, it also proved how strong his master was. Because of their attainments in alchemy and talisman techniques, their two disciples were able to perform so well. Boss, I've recorded all the money we earned recently. I plan to give it to you in 2 days, but since you're here today, I'll give it to you first. Gong Jun smiled and led the two of them towards the inner courtyard. Gong Jun, that's not why we're here today. I know, boss and madam, you must have wanted to see how this store is. Immortal Spirit, immortal, 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 immortal. Now from the outside, it doesn't look worse than the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. Chapter 65-22. How can that be? Gong Jun hurriedly waved his hand. His usually smiling face revealed a rare serious expression. Boss, it's already very good that you're willing to let me sell the immortal pills and talismans. As for the renovation of the shop, that's part of my job. I'm the boss. Bewitching's cold voice sounded, but it immediately silenced the noisy Gong Jun. The meaning of this sentence was very simple. I'm the boss, and I have the final say. Under these circumstances, could Gong Jun still refute? Of course not. Unless he didn't want to be the boss anymore. That was absolutely impossible. Looking at Gong Jun, who was still alive and kicking just a second ago, and the next second he had become resigned to his fate. Bailey Hongzhuang also felt very funny. This Gong Jun seemed to have set his mind on Bewitching. Normally, when would there be such a person who was so dead set on meeting? However, Gong Jun was very sincere. So sincere that no one could doubt him. Alright, it's time to talk about business. Weren't we talking about business just now? Gong Jun was slightly startled. Anything related to money was a big deal. As he spoke, Gong Jun couldn't help but say, "Boss, I don't want to say this, but you don't value money too much. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. How can you just casually give me money? This kind of thinking is absolutely unacceptable. As the saying goes, every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. You should keep it for yourself or your wife." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched slightly. This guy's brain is indeed wired differently from normal people. So now that I've given him the money, he's still not satisfied? Will you cheat me of my money? Bewitching slowly said. Of course not. Gong Jun patted his chest and said seriously, since I've recognized you as my boss, I naturally won't cheat you. Isn't that enough? Bewitching asked. Perhaps they had to be careful of other people. But for some reason, he felt that Gong Jun was a trustworthy person. This kind of trust came a little inexplicable. Gong Jun paused for a moment before he understood. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Boss, it turns out that you trust me so much. Stop. Bewitching's voice rang out again. He was obviously a man, but his emotions were so rich that it made people want to beat him up. Gong Jun curled his lips and stopped himself from being touched. He said, Boss, don't worry. I will definitely make this money more and more. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang then handed the pill to Gong Jun. Gong Jun, this is for you. What is this? You want me to sell a new immortal spirit pill that Madame refined? No, this is for you to consume. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Didn't you help us snatch the 10,000-year purple blood vine last time? I refined it into pills. There are exactly 3 of them. This one is for you. Gong Jun looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand. His expression froze for a moment, and he fell silent. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. This guy's personality was so strange. He couldn't be unhappy that she gave him a pill, right? Just like when Bewitching gave him money just now, he was unhappy? Ahem. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Bewitching a look, indicating whether they should leave first. At this moment, Gong Jun grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's arm emotionally. His eyes were as bright as stars. Madam, I'm really touched. Chapter 65-23. Bewitching's gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang's arm, which was being grabbed by Gong Jun. His eyes narrowed slightly, and a light quietly flashed across them. Gong Jun was busy being moved, when he suddenly felt the surrounding temperature drop. He wondered what was going on, and then noticed his boss's gaze. Almost immediately, Gong Jun hurriedly let go of his hand. Hee boss. I was just a little excited. Bewitching didn't say anything. He just looked at Gong Jun indifferently, but the latter felt a wave of pressure. Well, now he understood how much boss valued Madame. Since we've already given the pills, let's go back. Bewitching grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He didn't know if it was intentional or not, but his hand just happened to be where Gong Jun was grabbing previously. Gong Jun was a shrewd person, and naturally knew that his actions just now had caused boss's dissatisfaction. How could he let boss leave just like that? Boss, I heard that the City Lord Mansion is about to hold a monster slaying competition. Would you be interested? Hearing this, Bewitching's footsteps paused slightly, and a trace of interest appeared in his handsome eyes. Monster slaying competition? That's right. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly, and walked to Bewitching's side. This event has already been circulated, but it hasn't officially started yet. It's said that it will officially start in half a month, and now it's the registration stage. According to past experience, the rewards given by the City Lord Mansion should be very rich, so there will be many cultivators signing up for the monster slaying competition every time. Does the demon in the monster slaying competition refer to demon beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little curious. Usually demon beasts that had reached this level of cultivation could already transform into humans. If they attacked, wouldn't it feel like killing people? Moreover, once these demon beasts transformed into human form and barged into them, who would be able to distinguish them? That's not it. Gong Jun smiled and shook his head. It's a demon, not a demon beast. Monster. It seems that around 10 years ago, some monsters began to appear in the outskirts of some cities. Some of these monsters are demonic beasts, and some are plants. They look ordinary and mediocre. If you get too close to them, you might lose your life. Back then, when these monsters first appeared, they caused a huge commotion. Because no one had come into contact with these monsters, they didn't know what they were. After more than 10 years, everyone gradually gained some experience with this monster. In short, many of these monsters are black, and many of them are proficient in the power of darkness. Although the power of darkness has always been disliked in the immortal realms. In fact, everyone knows very well that the power of darkness is very strong. Ordinary people are simply no match for it. Gong Jun lowered his voice, his eyes filled with disdain. Ever since these monsters appeared, on one hand, everyone was shocked by the power of darkness. On the other hand, they were even more ostracized by the power of darkness. Boss, if you don't know much about these monsters, I think you should take advantage of this time to learn more about them. Otherwise, when the time comes to register, you will definitely be at a disadvantage if you don't understand the habits of these monsters at all. Bewitching nodded slightly. He was indeed somewhat interested in these monsters. Chapter 65-24. Gong Jun, from the looks of it, you seem to know a lot about these monsters. Have you participated in this monster slaughtering competition before? Gong Jun shook his head. I haven't participated in it. You know that what I'm most interested in is doing business. I don't do things like brandishing weapons. Look at my body. You know, I can't starve myself to thin just to participate in a competition. Looking at Gong Jun's face full of love for the meat on his body, Bailey Hongzhuang already didn't know what words to use to express her feelings. If Xiao Xuanzi also knew Gong Jun, he probably wouldn't have been so serious about losing weight. The reason why I know about this is because the monster slaughtering competition is about to start, so everyone wants to buy some insurance during this period of time. The shop's business is so good. It has a lot to do with the monster slaughtering competition. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Indeed, whenever they want to go out to gain experience, almost everyone will prepare all the things they may need. Once he needed them, these things might be able to save his life. Boss, I heard that Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi are also going to participate. Moreover, Guan Hongtian has been trying his best to prepare things for Guan Yi, so that he can perform well in the monster slaughtering competition. Gong Jun's eyes revealed a trace of gloomy light. That little bastard originally wasn't from Shiyun City, but with his strength, the success rate of participating in Shiyun City's competition will be higher. So he came here now. This Guan Hongtian really takes care of his nephew. Gong Jun, Bailey Hongzhuang secretly sighed. Even a biological father and son may not be able to do this, let alone an uncle. Hee hee, Gong Jun chuckled, lowered his voice and said, Madam, there's something you don't know. Is there some inside story? As the saying goes, there is no hatred in the world for no reason, and there is no love for no reason. Guan Hongtian was definitely a snobbish person. He was extremely selfish. If it was only his nephew, why would he sacrifice so much? You don't know how much he had to pay for the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. The lives of others are nothing in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. After hearing what Gong Jun said, she felt that things were even more confusing. Madam, haven't you noticed that Guan Yi and Guan Hongtian are somewhat similar? My nephew resembles my uncle, so it's not strange for them to be similar. Gong Jun smiled and shook his head. No, they're too alike. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other and immediately understood. So, Guan Yi is Guan Hongtian's son? Bailey Hongzhuang was in disbelief. Although she had heard of such a thing, she still found it hard to accept. Isn't that so? Gong Jun chuckled. At this time Bewitching's voice sounded. You already knew about their relationship, so you had the confidence to snatch the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine, right? Boss, you really have sharp eyes. I can't hide anything from you. Gong Jun admitted it frankly. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. This guy was probably going to make people die without paying for it. So you're not going to participate this time? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Chapter 65-25. After leaving the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked toward the City Lord's mansion. They came to the realm of Chaotic Immortal to gain experience. Since there was such a good opportunity, they naturally wouldn't miss it. I'm curious about these monsters. I wonder what they look like. There was a hint of curiosity on her delicate face as her bright eyes darted around. Although the realm of Chaotic Immortal was not as big as the Immortal Realm, there were many things that they had never seen before. It will start in half a month. You will know then. Di Beichen smiled faintly. We can buy a book when we go back later. Now that the monster slaying competition is near, there should be many books about this. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I've already seen many books on the way here. After all, we are not the only ones who have just come to the realm of Chaotic Immortal. The City Lord's mansion was located in the center of Xi'an City. The square courtyard was particularly eye-catching in the bustling streets. Although Xi'an City was not considered a large city in the realm of Chaotic Immortal, it was the entrance to the abandoned Immortal Forest. The flow of people was very shocking. Therefore, Xi'an City was one of the top cities among the many cities. The City Lord's mansion was majestic. 2 stone lions stood on either side of it, exuding boundless majesty. 2 groups of guards stood on either side of it in an orderly manner. Their cold faces and sharp gazes revealed the City Lord's mansion's confidence. No one dared to act rashly. At this moment, a few long tables were placed together in front of the City Lord's mansion's main gate. The tables were covered with red cloth. Many people had already formed a long line. Their names were recorded one by one. Obviously, everyone was here to sign up for the monster slaying competition. The scale of this monster slaying competition is indeed shocking. I heard that today is the 3rd day of registration. There are still so many people. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the long line and lined up behind Di Beichen. Other than cultivators who are cultivating in seclusion, most of the people who are free must have come to sign up. Di Beichen was also paying attention to the people who were registering. Among them, there were very young people, and there were also some elders. Unlike the upper realms, where the older a cultivator was, the more people feared them. The situation in the realm of chaos was the complete opposite. The younger a cultivator was, the more people feared them. This was because almost all of the cultivators here were at the Radiant Sun realm. Naturally, the younger the cultivator, the more talented and terrifying their potential would be. Therefore, when some young faces appeared, everyone would often pay more attention to them. If Xiren and the others knew about this, they would definitely come to sign up as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. They had recently separated to train and hadn't seen each other for the past few days. However, through this demon-slaying competition, it was very likely that they would meet again. They won't miss such an opportunity, Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Just as the two of them were lining up to register, a series of congratulatory voices suddenly came from behind. Young Master Guan, you're here to sign up too? For this kind of thing, you only need to send someone to sign up. Why would you need to come here personally? I heard that young Master Guan is cultivating in seclusion. I'm sure you'll do well in the monster slaying competition. Compliments were heard one after another, attracting everyone's attention. Chapter 65-26. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang saw a familiar figure and couldn't help but sneer. It seemed that because Guan Yi had Guan Hongtian as his uncle, his reputation in Xi'an City was quite resounding. Guan Yi was smiling as he accepted everyone's congratulations. He knew all too well that these people were only doing this to establish a relationship with his uncle. How precious were the treasures in Wanbao Pavilion. Even if they could get a discount, it would be a great advantage for them. Although he had suffered a loss a few days ago, it didn't affect him for long. After all, he was still doing well in Xi'an City. However, just as he was feeling extremely happy, He suddenly noticed the two proud figures in front of him, and the smile on his face stiffened. How could he be so unlucky? Originally, he wanted to avoid these two guys, so he didn't sign up on the first day. Instead, he deliberately waited for 2 days. Who would have thought that these two fellows would coincidentally come to register today as well? Guanyi, what's wrong with you? Why did your expression suddenly become so ugly? Beside Guanyi, a young man revealed a puzzled expression. Brother Bai, the person who poisoned us earlier was that woman in front. Yun Xiaoman's eyes were filled with viciousness. Thinking of how arrogant Bailey Hongzhuang was in front of her, she couldn't swallow this anger. However, she also knew very well that she didn't have the ability to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, and could only swallow this anger. Hearing Yun Xiaoman's words, Bai Luchuan also turned his gaze. Even if Yun Xiaoman didn't point it out clearly, he still saw the dazzling white figure at a glance. The willow-like woman was like a fairy in a painting. She was clearly standing in the crowd, but it was as if she was standing outside the mortal world, giving off an ethereal aura. Usually, he boasted that he had seen countless women, but compared to the woman in front of him, he understood what a real beauty was. Previously, when he heard Guanyi talk about it, he didn't take it to heart. He only felt that his description was too exaggerated. Now, it seemed that he wasn't exaggerating at all. On the contrary, he didn't describe her true beauty. However, he also understood that this woman was a rose with thorns. Her method of poisoning was simply appalling. So it's the two of them. Bai Luchuan chuckled. Watch. I'll help you vent your anger in a while. As soon as these words came out, a trace of joy appeared on Yun Xiaoman's face. Big brother Bai, is what you said true? Of course it's true. How could I lie to you? Bai Luchuan wore a smug look. Have you forgotten my relationship with City Lord Manor? Yun Xiaoman's eyes lit up. Brother Bai, you are the most capable. I believe that you will definitely be able to avenge me and Brother Yi. Don't worry. Bai Luchuan slowly summoned a person and whispered a few words into his ear. The person nodded and walked towards the person who was recording the name cards. After the man passed on his message, the person who recorded the name cards quietly glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching before nodding his head. Next, we can wait to watch a good show. Bai Luchuan looked at the other party's expression and knew that his matter was done. The smile on his face also had a hint of pride. Luchuan, these two people are very difficult to deal with. If they know that we did this, it's inevitable that they will cause trouble again. Chapter 65-27. Guanyi, didn't you suffer a loss last time? Why have you become so timid now? Bai Luchuan looked at Guanyi with some disdain. You're a man after all. As long as you teach them a lesson, will they dare to find trouble with you in the future? Brother Bai is right. Last time, she deliberately tricked us. Maybe she really thinks we're easy to bully. If we teach them a lesson this time, not only can we vent our anger, but we can also make them fear us. Yun Xiaoman also said. Hearing this, Guanyi nodded. He also felt very aggrieved about what happened that day. If it could be resolved, it would undoubtedly be best. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching only glanced at Guanyi before retracting their gazes. The previous matter had been resolved. Now they were just strangers. Gradually, it was finally two people's turn. Name. The man's cold voice sounded. Bewitching Bailey Hongzhuang. Bewitching replied. The conditions for registration were very simple. They only needed to write down their names and receive an identity card. This identity card would have their own information. It was also very simple to make. It was similar to the upper realm. I've noted it down. You may leave. The man waved his hand and let the two of them leave with a look of disdain. Seeing this, Bewitching frowned slightly. You haven't given us the identity cards yet. Your conditions don't pass. You can't register, the man said coldly. Why don't our conditions pass? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She clearly noticed that the cultivators in front only reported their names and didn't have any requirements at all. However, when it was their turn, they suddenly said that their conditions didn't pass. Wasn't this too strange? Do we, the City Lord's mansion, have to explain our actions to you? If I say you don't pass, then you don't pass. The sudden commotion immediately attracted everyone's attention. Some of the people who had participated in the demon-slaying competition more than once naturally understood that the man's words were just a cover. It couldn't even be considered an excuse. It was obvious that he was deliberately making things difficult for them. They must have offended someone, so they were targeted, right? That's someone from the city lord's mansion. It seems these two newcomers have quite the guts. After offending the city lord's mansion, they actually dared to sign up for the monster-slaying competition organized by the city lord's mansion. Isn't this a provocation? Lower your voice. There are always people who seek death. Let's just watch the show. Bailey Hongzhuang originally thought that the other party was deliberately making things difficult for her. Now that she heard the comments of the crowd, she was even more certain that her judgment was not wrong. It was just that they had only been in Xi'an City for a few short days, and they had not even met anyone from the city lord's mansion, so how could they offend them? If I say you can't pass, then you can't pass. Why do you have so many questions? Are you leaving or not? The man's expression turned cold. If you don't leave, then I can only send people to chase you away. As the man's voice fell, the guards of the city lord's mansion immediately took a step forward, as if they were ready to take action at any time. Master, these guys are too much. Xiao Hei's eyes burned with a raging fury. They were simply looking down on people with dog eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the city lord's mansion's forces. Then her gaze fell on Yun Xiaoman. Coincidentally, she saw a flash of pleasure in the latter's eyes. Chapter 65-28. Let's go. There's no point in staying here. A man couldn't help but remind them when he saw the situation. If we offend the city lord, we'll be in trouble. Bewitching turned to look at the man beside him. The man didn't dislike them for wasting time. Instead, he kindly reminded them, which was a little surprising. You guys must have offended Bai Luchuan, right? The man lowered his voice. Bai Luchuan? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This was the first time she had heard of this name. Here. It's the person standing beside Guan Yi. He's the city lord Bai's nephew. If you really want to participate, why don't you find someone to buy a nameless participation token? If you continue to stay here, be careful not to get into trouble. Thank you, brother. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan weren't sure what was going on. At this moment, the two of them completely understood. So, this matter was really caused by Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman. They thought that the previous matter would be over, but now it seemed that the other party didn't want to let it go. Bewitching, let's go back first. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. She held Bewitching's arm and slowly walked to the back. However, the smile didn't reach her eyes. Her ink-like eyes were filled with a cold light. Bewitching's expression was as cold as ice. He had already made up his mind. When the demon-slaying competition began, these guys would be their hunting targets. I thought they would cause some trouble. I didn't expect them to leave with their tails between their legs. How boring. Bai Luchuan spread out his hands with a dull expression. Yun Xiaoman was also a little disappointed. She had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan would cause trouble in public. The city lord's mansion would definitely not allow anyone to cause trouble here. When the time came, the two of them would definitely be at a disadvantage. They might even be punished on the spot. She never thought that the two of them would leave just like that. This made her extremely depressed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Xuan slowly left, their footsteps paused for a moment when they passed by Guan Yi and the other two, leaving behind a meaningful look. Guan Yi's heart trembled when he felt their gazes. A thought flashed through his mind. Could it be that they had already seen through everything? Brother Yi, why are you in a daze? Yun Xiaoman waved her hand in front of Guan Yi, her face showing a trace of concern. Ah, nothing. Guan Yi shook his head. I just think they might have seen through it. You're thinking too much. If he really saw through it, why would he leave without saying anything? Bai Luchuan didn't take it to heart at all. In my opinion, they know their limits. They know that it's impossible for them to fight City Lord Manor, so they tactfully left. Master, aren't we letting them off too easily if we just leave like this? Xiao Hei could not help but voice out. This situation was really too depressing. Cheap. A cold light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. When the demon-slaying competition begins, this grudge will definitely be avenged. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Bewitching's calm face did not show any anger. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding of him, just from that slight expression, she already knew that he was angry. Chapter 65-29. Boss, you didn't register successfully? When Gong Jun heard that they didn't get an identity card, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Why? The City Lord's mansion has never stopped people from registering. Well, it's all thanks to the other side. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the myriad treasure pavilion opposite them and said meaningfully. Gong Jun turned his gaze. With one look, he understood what was going on. Although Guan Hongtian has some ability in Xi'an City, his relationship with the City Lord's mansion isn't very close. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have the ability to make the City Lord's mansion do such a thing. Bai Luchuan, do you know this person? Bewitching asked slowly. Bai Luchuan? Gong Jun was stunned when he heard the name. A few years quickly flashed through his mind, and he understood in the blink of an eye. I understand. I heard that Guani has been quite close to Bai Luchuan recently. This matter must have been done by Bai Luchuan. Bai Luchuan is the City Lord's nephew. He is usually taken care of by the City Lord. Furthermore, the City Lord's son, Bai Qingli, grew up with him as if they were biological brothers. Others definitely wouldn't be able to do this, but Bai Luchuan can. I didn't expect this fellow to stand up for Guani. A trace of vexation appeared in Gong Jun's eyes. What a blunder. Bewitching's gaze swept across Gong Jun's face. What are you hiding from us? No. Gong Jun hurriedly waved his hand in denial. His slightly evasive gaze revealed a trace of guilt. I'll give you a chance. Gong Jun smiled embarrassedly. Hee. I actually knew that Guan Yi and the others were going to register today, so I thought that boss would also go today. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. She had been a little puzzled previously. Logically speaking, Gong Jun should have told them about such an important matter as the demon-slaying competition early on. However, he had dragged it out until the third day before telling them. It really didn't match his character. So, this was the crux of the problem. Then you're amazing. We haven't even gotten our identity cards yet. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands, a helpless look on her face. Madam, don't be angry. I didn't think of that either. Gong Jun straightened his expression and said, This is actually not a bad thing. If not for today's matter, we wouldn't have known that Guan Yi and Bai Luchuan's relationship was so good. Now that I know, I can be a little more vigilant during the demon-slaying competition to avoid being cheated by them, right? Seeing that Gong Jun had found a perfect excuse for the trouble he had caused, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. This guy really had a glib tongue. He could even make a dead person come back to life. However, on this point, she did indeed have the same thoughts. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. If they had known about this situation earlier, they could have been more vigilant. If they really made a move during the demon-slaying competition, they would have to be wary of the people from the City Lord's mansion. Otherwise, if things got out of hand, they would probably be chased down again. Although they had experienced quite a lot of such things. Gong Jun, I heard that there are other ways to obtain an identity card other than this method. Is that true? Bewitching's handsome eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. They couldn't miss the demon-slaying competition no matter what. Chapter 65-30. Boss, how did you know? Gong Jun was somewhat surprised as he nodded and said, Indeed, it's possible. However, such an identity card doesn't have a name, only a number. Apart from this, are there any other effects? No. Apart from not being famous, everything else is the same. If you get into the top 10, you will also be rewarded. However, usually, everyone will collect their own identity cards. Apart from some cultivators who didn't make it in time to register, they will use such identity cards. In the previous few demon-slaying competitions, these identity cards with only numbers didn't seem to have any achievements. They only obtained 10th place once. Back then many people were shocked. This is because such a number appearing on the ranking list does seem rather abrupt, Gongjun explained. It's good that there are no other effects. Let's use this identity card. Beichen's expression was calm. Since Bai Luchuan was involved in this matter, it was definitely impossible to go to City Lord Manor to get an identity card. Since that was the case, why bother? Gongjun nodded. Boss madam, leave this matter to me. I'll send the identity cards to you after I prepare them. Alright. Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen returned to their residence. On the way, they bought a few sets of information regarding the demon-slaying competition. Along the way, there was an endless stream of hawking voices. All kinds of bindings were dazzling. It was said that many of the information were directly sold from previous years. Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen had already asked Gongjun had also pointed them to a shop. That shop's business was undoubtedly the best among all the shops. Its information was also much more expensive than the other information. Since the information in this shop was updated every year according to the cultivator's descriptions, the information recorded in the shop was obviously more comprehensive. However, there were also some problems. The content on it often came from cultivators' oral accounts, so there might be some inaccuracies. This needed to be judged by oneself. For this reason, Bailey Hongzhuang also bought 2 copies of other materials for comparison. Inside the house, the woman and man were each flipping through a set of documents. Beside them, the 2 fur balls, one black and one white, were also seriously using their claws to scrape through the documents. Master, the records here are interesting. It is said that the demon crystals of these monsters are blood red. We have encountered such monsters before. Xiao He blinked her eyes. The demonic beasts she came into contact with usually did not have such demonic crystals. But in the desert world and the ocean world, the demonic beasts they came into contact with were all like this. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her head. After reading the introduction, she had already thought of the desert world and the ocean world. It was indeed very imaginative. This is really strange. The desert world and the ocean world are real. Although we've been there for a long time, we still haven't figured out what that place is. I feel more and more that this chaos ring is a key to opening the door to a different world. Beichen slowly raised his eyes, a trace of seriousness on his handsome face. Chapter 65-31. Hearing Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She thought the same. If that's really the case, doesn't that mean that these monsters didn't appear out of thin air, but came from another plane? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Following this train of thought, things became very interesting. That's not impossible. Could it be that these monsters also ascended? That would be interesting. Her clear black and white eyes shone with an amused luster. Ever since she found out that not all cultivators who ascended to the immortal region came from the upper realm, she felt that this world was much bigger than she had imagined. There were probably countless parallel planes below the immortal region, and the best of these planes had all ascended to this place. Just like Gongjun, he didn't come from the upper realm, but from another plane. However, these planes were basically the same. Apart from the different locations, there wasn't much difference. These monsters were quite different from them. Perhaps it was a plane full of monsters? Perhaps we'll know after the monster slaughtering competition begins. Beichen looked at the curious little face in front of him, and couldn't help but reach out and rub her head. The competition will begin soon. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I'll see what else we need to prepare. Before setting off, she had already prepared many things. Now that she had plenty of things, she didn't need to specially prepare. There are many experts in this monster slaughtering competition. It's said that because the cloud-gathering city is relatively weak, some experts may choose to participate here. This way their chances of success will be much higher. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, I think we should take the pill before the competition begins. Even if it increases our strength by a bit, it might be of great help when the time comes. Although the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine was useful for cultivators to break through to the elementary immortal realm, she felt that since it was a useful treasure, there was no need to wait until the end. Rather than waiting until the end, it was better to increase her cultivation level first. Otherwise, if she ended up like Guan Hongtian, wouldn't it be a pity if this thing fell into the hands of others? Okay, Bewitching nodded. There's still half a month before the monster slaughtering competition begins. That's enough time. Gong Jun was very fast. In the evening, he had already delivered the identity medallions. Bailey Hongzhuang played with the identity medallion in her hand. It only had numbers on it. Perhaps it was because all the people who signed up were using their real names. So Di Bei Chun and Bailey Hongzhuang's identity cards were 001 and 002 respectively. This number is actually not bad, it's very close to the top. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Isn't it? Gong Jun chuckled. Although it's just a number, it's still better than other numbers. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, we plan to go into seclusion for a while before the demonic beast slaughtering competition. Understood. I won't disturb you for a while. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. The monster slaughtering competition is quite dangerous. Boss, you must be careful. Chapter 6532. Seeing that the other party didn't knock on the door and directly entered the courtyard, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She wondered if it was Guan Yi who had instigated Bai Luchuan to cause trouble now. If this trouble were to erupt now, it would be much earlier than they had expected. It would also be more troublesome to deal with it. However, when the two of them walked into the courtyard, they saw a familiar face. Immediately, a look of surprise appeared on their faces. Yin Che, why are you here? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly stepped forward, her pretty face full of surprise. Sister brother-in-law. Bai Yin Che smiled. I came today to ask if you know about the demon-slaying competition. We've already heard about it. We just signed up today and are preparing to participate. What about you? Bai Yin Che nodded. We're also preparing to participate. Since we're out to train, we can't miss such an interesting thing. Why are you here alone today? Where did Linger go? Now that they were in a team of two, logically speaking, they shouldn't be separated no matter where they went. However, Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and didn't see Linger. Linger has been in seclusion for the past few days. I originally wanted to wait for her to come out before looking for you, but I didn't expect her to be in seclusion for a while. So I came first. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. Sister, let me take a look at the identity card. Bai Yin Che's eyes were filled with curiosity. I was thinking that Linger is in seclusion now. I wonder if I can help her get an identity card? It was best not to be disturbed by external forces during seclusion. He naturally didn't want to affect Linger at this time. However, the time for registration was limited. If he couldn't register during this period, it would be very troublesome to participate. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the ID card to Bai Yin Che. Here, this is it. Looking at the number on the identity card, Bai Yin Che was a little surprised. Are there only numbers on the identity card? How come I heard that there are cultivators' names? It's a long story. In short, I was tricked by someone. I couldn't get an identity card with my name directly from the city lord's mansion, so I had no choice but to use a numbered identity card. Fortunately, there are no other effects other than the number, so it doesn't matter. Bailey Hongzhuang waved the identity card in her hand, her delicate face rippling with a smile, like 100 flowers blooming. So there's such an identity token? If Linger doesn't make it in time, can we also use this identity card? Bai Yin Che's eyes lit up as he asked. Logically speaking, it should be possible. That's good. Bai Yin Che was relieved. The problem that he was most worried about had been solved. You didn't come here today just to ask this question, right? Di Beichen's eyes rippled with a wise luster. He knew Yin Che's character very well. If there wasn't anything important, he wouldn't have made a special trip here. Besides, Linger was still in seclusion at this moment. Brother-in-law is really smart. You saw through it at a glance. Bai Yin Che didn't hide it. I was thinking that the competition is about to start. On one hand, I wanted to inform you, and on the other hand, I wanted to ask my sister for some poison. Before they separated, each of them had put enough pills and runes on their bodies. However, this poison, he also felt that it would be very effective most of the time. Chapter 65-33. Poison. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Why would you think of that? She was the only one who used poison on a daily basis, and the others had never mentioned it before. Therefore, when they were sorting out the cultivation resources, the others didn't have any in their storage rings. Previously, I also heard about the conflict between you and the Wanbao Pavilion. I think that since you all need it, we naturally need it even more. Bai Lianche smiled magnanimously. Although he was never afraid of a direct confrontation, no one knew if the other party would use underhanded methods. It was always better to be careful. It seems that the matter we caused before is really well known. Bai Lianche waved his hand. The Wanbao Pavilion's influence in Shiyun City is not small, but it seems that many people don't have a good impression of the Wanbao Pavilion. Therefore, after this incident, many people felt very happy. At first, we just listened and didn't take it to heart. However, later on, we realized that the people they were talking about were too similar to you. So we came to understand. Sister, have you bought an immortal pill furnace now? Bai Lianche frowned slightly. He also knew that Hong Zhuang's initial plan was to buy an immortal pill furnace after leaving the abandoned immortal forest. This was because she could only start refining pills after she bought an immortal pill furnace. Otherwise, her alchemy skills would be useless. Don't worry, I already have one. Bailey Hongzhuang replied with a smile. Ever since Gong Jun knew that she needed an immortal pill furnace, he immediately sent one over. Moreover, according to her research, the quality of this immortal pill furnace was much better than the white immortal pill furnace she saw before. However, this immortal pill furnace was completely black and decorated with fiery red datura flowers. The entire structure looked very enchanting and exquisite, revealing an indescribable beauty. When she first saw this immortal pill furnace, she was stunned because she had never seen such a strange pattern. After using this immortal pill furnace, she found that it was very useful. She vaguely felt that it was not inferior to Granny Hua's immortal pill furnace. She wasn't sure about that herself. After all, she wasn't a weapon refiner, so she didn't know how to judge the grade of the two immortal pill furnaces. The only thing she could be sure of was that this immortal pill furnace was extremely useful, and her success rate in refining pills was also quite high. In short, she was very satisfied with this immortal pill furnace. For this reason, she had even asked Gong Jun about it. However, according to Gong Jun, he had only obtained it by accident and did not know its true origin. That's good. I was originally worried that you wouldn't be able to buy an immortal pill furnace in the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and would have to find a way to buy one in other cities. Now that we have it, we can rest assured. If we run to other cities, it will be more troublesome, Bai Lianche said with a smile. Yanche, have you heard of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion? I've heard about this too. It seems that his reputation is much better than Wanbao Pavilion's. At least his attitude is much better. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other, and there was a smile in their eyes. We're now in a cooperative relationship with the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Oh! Bai Lianche raised his eyebrows. You guys are really amazing. How long have you been in Shiyun City? And you've already started doing business. It's just a coincidence. Chapter 65-34. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the poison she'd concocted and handed them to Bai Lianche. She then wrote down the different effects of each poison and left behind some antidotes. Once the poison took effect, it would inevitably require an antidote if it fell on one of their own. After all, Yanche had never used poison before. Big sister, I understand. Don't worry. Bai Lianche put the poisons into his storage ring and smiled brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She wasn't too worried. Once the demon-slaying competition started, they would likely meet again. Then I'll go back first. Linger is still in seclusion. I have to watch over her. Take good care of Linger. In the next moment, Bailey Yanche's figure flashed and disappeared from the courtyard. Master, do you think Yin Che will succeed if he spends some time alone with Linger? Xiao Hei scooted over when she saw Bai Li Yin Che leave, a gossipy smile on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang flicked Xiao Hei's head. You're so mischievous. Master, how am I small? I'm clearly older than Yin Che, okay? Xiao Hei rubbed the spot where she'd flicked her head. She looked sullen. If it weren't for the fact that she was a special species and hadn't been able to transform into a human, she would have been like Yin Che and the others a long time ago. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. Because Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai didn't seem to have changed after so many years, she subconsciously felt that Yin Che was an adult, and Xiao Hei was still a little fellow. I'm talking about your small size. Really? Xiao Hei dragged out the last syllable. Her face was full of disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't look guilty at all. You haven't transformed into a human yet, which means you're still a child. As for Yin Che and Linger, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly as memories of the two flashed through her mind. I'm a little curious. If they really get together, what will their child be? Xiao Hei's eyes widened. So her master was thinking even further than her? I don't know. Bewitching shook his head. Usually, demonic beasts that have yet to transform into human form are usually of the same species. After transforming into human form, they have more choices. As for their offspring, I'm afraid they won't know until the very last moment. The dragon has 9 sons, and the 9 sons are different. If Linger and Yin Che have 2 children in the future, they might not be the same type, right? Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow. Thinking about it like this, things were really interesting. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why there are so many different types of demonic beasts in this world. Bewitching smiled faintly. Indeed, now that you mention it, I suddenly understand why there are so many different types of demonic beasts. Xiao Hei looked at Xiao Bai. Why is Master's focus on this? You don't understand, do you? Xiao Bai looked at Xiao Hei with disdain. This means that Master has already decided that they will be together. Xiao Hei was stunned when she heard this. Then, she understood in the next moment. So that's how it is. Your reaction is too slow. Let's just wait for the good news. Xiao Bai winked with a smug expression. Chapter 65-35. Guan family. Guan Hongtian handed over the cultivation resources to Guan Yi and said, "Ear, you must perform well in this monster slaughtering competition. If you can get a good ranking and catch the city lord's eye, your future will be limitless." Thank you, uncle. I will definitely work hard. Guan Yi's face was full of smiles. With these cultivation resources, he should be able to increase his strength before the monster slaughtering competition. Those 2 fellows from the Immortal Treasure Pavilion might also participate. You must be careful. Guan Hongtian's face revealed a trace of fear. Whenever he thought of those 2 fellows, he felt like he couldn't breathe properly. He had been in the Serene Cloud City for so many years. He never thought that he would fall into the hands of 2 young fellows this time. Especially when they said such words. It made him even angrier. However, he also understood that it was best not to offend them now. Otherwise, if something like this happened again, his family's property would be emptied. Uncle, I don't think they will necessarily participate in the monster slaughtering competition. Guan Yi chuckled. He couldn't help but feel a little flustered. However, when he thought of the 2 of them leaving with their tails between their legs, he still felt a burst of joy. Hearing this, Guan Hongtian's face revealed a trace of doubt. What do you mean? Today, I went to sign up with Bai Luchuan. After he heard about the incident, he stopped them from signing up. What happened after that? Guan Hongtian revealed a look of curiosity. How dare they cause trouble in the city lord's mansion? After being reprimanded, they directly left. Guan Yi smiled. Guan Hongtian nodded happily. Good. That's great. However, I don't know if they will receive a numbered identity card to participate. No matter what, this incident will dampen their spirit. It will prevent them from being so arrogant. Guan Hongtian put a hand on Guan Yi's shoulder. His face was full of gratification. Bai Luchuan is the city lord's nephew. He has a very good relationship with the city lord's son, Bai Qingli. If you can get in touch with Bai Qingli through him, It will be very beneficial for your future. You should know what to do, right? Guani nodded confidently. Uncle, don't worry. I know what to do. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went into seclusion after taking the pills. Feeling the medicinal power of the pills in their bodies, the two of them couldn't help but feel happy. The effects of the 10,000-year purple blood vine were indeed extraordinary. Its rich medicinal energy was not something that ordinary medicinal pills could compare to. An endless stream of medicinal power flowed through his body like a flame, continuously strengthening his body's strength and strengthening his Dantian's origin energy. At this moment, the two of them were surrounded by piles of blood spirit stones. A steady stream of origin energy was emitted from the blood spirit stone and absorbed into their bodies. Every time the power of a blood spirit stone was completely absorbed, it would turn into powder and break apart. However, the two of them had practically filled the house with blood spirit stones. Even if the absorption rate was extremely fast, there was no need to worry about the blood spirit stones for the time being. Speaking of which, this was all thanks to Guan Hongtian's generosity. Almost all of these blood spirit stones had come from Guan Hongtian, so they would undoubtedly be of great help to them. Chapter 65-36. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Gong Jun stood in the courtyard and anxiously paced back and forth. From time to time, he would stop and look at the closed door. After discovering that there was no movement, he began to anxiously pace back and forth again, sighing from time to time. Today is the day of the monster slaughter competition. Why are boss and the others still in seclusion? If they don't come out today, they won't be able to make it in time. Gong Jun's face was full of worry. He originally thought that boss and madam would definitely come and tell him before they set off. However, he didn't see the two of them in the shop today. He couldn't help but feel a little worried, so he ran over. Who knew that when he came over to take a look, he would find that the two of them were still in seclusion in the room and had no intention of coming out. He immediately became even more anxious. Creak. Just as Gong Jun was thinking about whether he should knock on the door, the closed door suddenly opened. Immediately after, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's figures appeared in his line of sight. Gong Jun rushed over. Boss, you're finally out of seclusion. The monster slaughter competition is starting today. Di Beichen nodded. We know. You guys are too calm. If we don't make it in time, we'll miss it. Gong Jun looked depressed. Let's go. Yes. Along the way, Gong Jun also explained the situation after the monster slaughter competition began. Boss, I've also learned about the details of the competition from others. It's said that the location of the monster slaughter competition is in a mountain range behind our Xi'an city. Normally, this mountain range is accessible, but other than the people from the mercenary union, most people don't go there. Because these monsters reproduce very quickly, a large purge must be carried out every year. Otherwise, it'll be too late. The entire competition lasts for a month. If you're injured in the middle, you can rest in the periphery. There is a ranking board set up there, as well as the previous rankings. The ranking will constantly change according to the score on the identity card. It will be immediately displayed. Now, everyone has basically gathered at the entrance. It will officially start at noon. Di Beichen looked at the sky. With their current speed, they should be able to make it in time. Gong Jun, you're participating in the monster slaughter competition with us. Have you arranged the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's matters? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose slightly. With Gong Jun's strength, it was not impossible for him to defeat Xi'an City's Wanbao Pavilion. However, once he went to the competition, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion would be left unattended, and Guan Hongtian wouldn't be participating. Of the Xi'an City. Of the monster. Now that most of the cultivators have come to participate in the monster slaughter competition, if I do business here, it'll definitely be better than outside. Seeing Gong Jun's proud expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen immediately understood what he was thinking. Originally, they thought that Gong Jun didn't really want to participate in the competition. Why did he suddenly change his mind? So this was the reason. Gongjun, I'm suddenly starting to admire you. Chapter 6537. With Gongjun leading the way, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiaohe quickly saw the sea of people in front of them. Even though they had already guessed that there would be a lot of cultivators participating in the competition, they were still shocked when they saw the number of people in front of them. Master, are these just cultivators from one city? Isn't the number of people a little too shocking? Xiaohe was secretly speechless. This was just the number of people in one city, but it seemed as if all the people in the upper realm cities had arrived here. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was a little complicated. She knew that Xi'an City was very big, but now it seemed that this area was still beyond their imagination. In fact, although they had turned around on the streets of Xi'an City, this location was just a small area of Xi'an City. There were many places they had never been to before. Boss madam, Xi'an City's area is really big. A city here is comparable to a dynasty in the plane we were in before. The number of cultivators here is innumerable. So this demon-slaying competition is actually very dangerous. Gongjun timely reminded, if I didn't want to have boss's protection and take this opportunity to do business, I wouldn't participate in such a dangerous competition. If I lose my life here, then it's really not worth it. Gongjun's face was full of fear. It was because his cultivation was basically piled up with heaven and earth treasures, and he wasn't very good at fighting. Don't worry, when the time comes, the three of us will be together. If anything happens, we can take care of each other. Bewitching spoke out. Gongjun nodded repeatedly. Thank you, boss. With so many cultivators gathered here, the appearance of the three of them wouldn't attract any attention at all. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's fluttering white robes were very eye-catching against this slightly dark land. Coupled with their temperament, it was impossible for people to ignore them. Therefore, in just a short moment, many people noticed them. Brother Yi, look at them. They actually came to participate in the competition. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's figure, Yin Xiaoman's complexion suddenly became unsightly. She originally thought that this woman wouldn't come today, but she didn't expect to meet her again. Guanyi turned his gaze. As expected, he saw the two indifferent people. His brows furrowed unconsciously. Although his strength had improved a little compared to before, he was still uncertain when he thought about Bailey Hongzhuang's poison methods. Guanyi, these two fellows really won't give up until they hit a wall. The corners of Bai Liuchuan's lips curled into a playful smile, but there was a hint of coldness in the depths of his eyes. I've been in Xi'an City for so long, and it's been a long time since I've seen such a fun person, hee. Upon hearing Bai Liuchuan's laughter, Guanyi knew that he was already angry. The two of them haven't been in Xi'an City for long, but they are very arrogant. What happened last time was obviously not enough to teach them a lesson. Guanyi slowly said. Yin Xiaoman also said, Brother Bai, I feel that they don't put you in their eyes at all. They clearly know that you didn't let them participate, but they still came today. Isn't this deliberately provoking you? As soon as these words came out, Bai Liuchuan's gaze immediately turned cold. The previous ranking board recorded the names of the previous top rankers. Among them, the most eye-catching name was Bai Qingli. There are a total of 10 tournaments. Bai Qingli actually occupies the majority of the rankings. This strength is really not simple. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows revealed a trace of surprise. No wonder the city lord's mansion gave out such generous rewards. It turned out that it all fell into her son's pocket. However, such a result was enough to see Bai Qingli's astonishing strength. Bai Qingli is indeed a proud son of heaven. His strength is astonishing. In this cloud city, who knows how many women admire him. However, he doesn't seem to be interested in this at all. His greatest interest is in cultivation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, for being a part of this adventure.